In this video, we're going to show residents of the ENT program how to quickly enter clinical encounters using TRES. When you log into TRES, go to the Activities menu at the top of the page and click Create New Activity to get started. Let's go ahead and do that. On the Create New Activity page, you will see an Activity Type drop-down menu. And when I go inside that, I have three different options to select. I have Academic, Clinic, as well as Operation. So for the purpose of this, I'm just going to select Academic. And you'll see Academic is broken down into several sections, including Activity Setting, the Activity Detail, as well as Self-Evaluation. So in the Activity Setting area, you'll see this area is highlighted in green, and what that means is that any data that you enter in this section will be visible and evaluated on by your instructor. And that goes the same for Activity Detail. So starting in the first section, I can select from the date picker, and today is June 3rd, so I will leave that for today's date. And I'm going to go over to the Training Center area. And I can select any hospital that I want just by clicking on the plus sign next to the city, and then just click on the hospital that I want, and it will add that. Now that's one way that you can navigate a field in TRES. Now, for example, if I knew the name of the hospital, I can use the search feature. So inside the Training Center field, I can type in the name of the hospital, and you see as soon as I start typing, it will immediately suggest the relevant option. So there's the hospital, and I can just hit enter on my keyboard and it will add it. And to go to the next field, I usually like to use my keyboard shortcuts. So I just hit the tab key, and that takes me to attending physician. And I can hit tab again, and that'll take me to duration. Now duration, I can just type in the hours and minutes, or I can use the hover over menu here and just select the time. So I can click on 2 hours, let's say, and 30 minutes. I'll do that again, but this time I will just type in the hours and minutes manually. So 2 hours and 30 minutes. And let's jump over to description. So for description, I see conference, exam, ground rounds, presentation, research, and rounds. Let's do a presentation. And in the title, I'm going to give this a good descriptive title. Let's say presentation to students and faculty. And then I'm going to give myself a rating on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And I'm just going to select 5, which means I learned useful and relevant knowledge or skills that will substantially help me improve my own practice. Now you can see when I select the different options here, the text at the bottom will change. So it's important to read that as well. Now this section is optional as well. However, you will see certain sections in TRES that will be mandatory. So for example, some of these fields that I entered previously, like description, attending physician, training center, those have a little red asterisk next to them, which indicate that they are required. So for example, if I missed any of these, I would not be allowed to save my activity. Let's actually try that. I'm just going to clear some of these options. So you can see I left training center blank as well as description blank. Let's try and save that and see what happens. So you can see there, both of those fields are now red and they are warning me that a value is required. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to select the hospital and I'm going to select the description. Now at the bottom, I can choose to save this activity, or I can click Save in New. What that will do is it will create a brand new academic activity, which will allow me just to start from a clean slate and create another activity that is completely unrelated to this one. I can also click on Save and Duplicate, and what that will do is it will save all of the data that I entered, which is handy. So for example, let's say you had multiple activities that you wanted to enter. one after another, you can just click save and duplicate. Let's give that a shot. So at the top of the page here, it will warn you that you are saving an activity that was just entered. And now on this particular page, I have all of the data that I previously entered, and I can just make any change that I like, perhaps change the date, change the training center, and click save. Now let's try save and new. So as I mentioned earlier, what that does is it will create a new academic activity, or it could be any activity that you are on. So for example, if this was an operation, if I clicked save and new, it would just create a brand new operation activity. So that's entering an academic activity. Let's try some of the other options. So we have clinic here. I'm going to load that up, and I'm going to select today's date, which is June 3rd. I'm going to select a different training center this time. And I put in a description under activity detail. Now you'll see the description field has different options for a clinic. So we only have two options here, inpatient and on-call. Let's say I was on call, so I'll put that in there and go over to the role area. In this example, I was the primary person performing the procedure. So I'm going to select primary, and then I can enter the number of patients. In this example, let's just say it was just one patient, and the total number of patients seen. So I'm just going to put in one, but of course, if you do multiple patients, you can just enter one activity for any number of patients that you saw. And under self-evaluation, I'm going to give myself a score. And again, this section is optional. And in private notes, which is available on any activity, I can enter a comment. Now, the private notes is only visible to you. Nobody has access to that information at all, so you don't have to worry about that. And once I'm done, I'm just going to click save and new. So that's the clinic. Now let's try operation. So you'll see some different options here, obviously relevant to an operation. So again, I'm going to select the training center. Let's try a different one this time. And let's put in a diagnosis. And I'm just going to click the plus button to expand it. So let's say this was an airway obstruction. Now once again, let me just delete the diagnosis that I put in there. I'm going to type in airway obstruction. So just to demonstrate again the autocomplete feature that TRES has, so you do not have to necessarily navigate through the whole list. If you know what you're looking for, you can just type it in. And I'm just going to hit enter to enter that airway obstruction. So let's go to procedures. And let's go to larynx. And I'm just going to select a random procedure here. And I'm going to enter my patient age group, let's say 14 plus. And I'll say this was an elective. And just for sake of change, I'm going to say I was the first assistant on this particular operation. And you can leave patient MRN blank. It's not necessary. However, you can put that in there if you want to go back and have a way of easily identifying a patient. I'm just going to put in a fake MRN number here. And once again, self-evaluation. So I'm going to say I was quite confident with this one and I learned a lot. So I will give myself a good rating. And I was also comfortable and I felt that I was quite competent in this particular operation. And I'm going to leave private notes blank and click save. So that'll take you back to the View Activities page, which will show you all of your past activities in chronological order. Now you can go back, for example, if you made a mistake or you want to make a change to an existing activity, you can go and do that just by clicking the Edit button. So I'll try and do that. And there we go. So this is a past activity that was entered. And you can see on the right-hand sidebar here under Related Activities, As you enter activities, this will be very helpful because it will show you the past activities that you entered. So for example, if you start working on a new one, you can easily go back to some of the past activities that you recently entered. And I'll try and do that now. So there we go. So that was one of the previous ones. And it'll even show you the last time that you saved that. So there's a date and time stamp here right at the top corner of the page. It shows last saved June 3rd. And that is how you edit a past activity. And hopefully you have found that helpful. If you have any further questions, please reach out to your instructor. Thank you.